And welcome into the task force. I'm Dan Leach. We have the legendary Kingpin Dave Rieger and the pride of Northwestern, one of my broadcast heroes, human heroes, Jamie Samuelsen, Jam Sam, the Jam Squatch. It's great to see you. We have to welcome you with your fight song, of course.
I appreciate that. I know the words, Dan, if you ever are concerned about that.
Well, we'll do it together.
It's great to be here at the task force. Good to see you. I can see Rieger. I can't see you, Dan, but I'm sure you just look fantastic. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I've been waiting for the invite. I saw you had Rob Parker on. You have all these other luminaries, so I'm happy to be invited.
We appreciate you coming on and listen. I look really good, but no one looks as good as you. Even Dave looks great. Jamie, you look like you're younger than the last time I saw you, which feels like a year ago, by the way.
Yeah, it does. I think it was a year ago. No, it was. I'll tell you exactly when it was, Dan. It was Super Bowl Monday morning.
Yep, that's right.
We were doing our show, me and Stoney and Heather, and somebody said something about Leach, I feel like Leach is around. I feel like Leach is around here. Leach is always around, and literally, almost as those words left my mouth like a thought bubble, I see Leach wearing his Barry Sanders blue Lions jersey. It's like what 6:05 in the morning.
It was
No idea where you're coming in from, but you're there.
I think I'd been out for a little late night, if you will, after the Super Bowl party. I think I did a show after that. And then I think I might have gone downtown before everything closed up. Well, before we get into everything, I got to ask you, how are you? How is the family? Of course, I know you've been broadcasting from home, doing the Jamie and Stoney show, doing a great job at that, as you always do. What's this been like for you? And obviously, these unprecedented surreal and very, very emotional times.
Well, I think it's been the same for a lot of people. It's been weird. I mean, I think that's the first weird word that comes to mind. And it's been hard, as I'm sure you guys have dealt with on this and the radio stuff you've done, Dan, with no sport. Why we all got into this is because we loved sports. And so that part's really weird. And then the fact that there's no end date, right? I mean, we sit here and it's like, oh, well, this is going to be canceled, and this is going to be canceled. And then, we find out today that they're canceling the Detroit Grand Prix, which isn't a surprise, but we don't know when it's all going to come back. Last week when Herb Street said that he wasn't expecting football, I was like, wait, what? Wait, we're going to have football. I mean, I understand we're going to maybe not have NBA and NHL, and we obviously don't have March Madness. But other than that, like everything, we're trying to look at the bright side. We have time with our kids that we normally wouldn't have. My kids are usually going 6,000 different directions to baseball or dance or, play rehearsal or whatever. And now they're all home, which is great. So we're trying to look for the silver lining, but it's definitely very difficult. I'll tell you what's weird, what we've done. I'm in my basement right now.
It looks great, by the way.
An impressive setup behind me.
That is. It's like my dad's little man cave with all this. That looks very similar. Dave's seen it before. That's great.
So that's an old entertainment unit that we pulled out of the back storage thing. We made it look really impressive by putting my wife's Emmys up there and a bobblehead and some random stuff. But it's just like a basement. So we created like our own little TV studio.
That's
awesome.
How
like whenever they go on ESPN, they always have books behind them to look really
Schefter, those guys.
That's what we try to do.
Where are the Marconis? Where are your Marconis and MAB awards?
No Marconis.
You've won 1 million of those. By the way, you mentioned the canceling of the Grand Prix. They obviously canceled the British Open, and they're redoing the whole PGA schedule. Dave, you're a huge golfer. I know you got to be upset about that like I am.
I wish you would call it by its proper name, the Open Championship.
I do call it the Open Championship.
Not the British Open, number one.
Shut up, Dave.
Number two, I just want to say it's great to see another DFN alum, Rob Parker, the other day, Jamie. So I just hope that everybody's doing all right. I know that I've still been going to work personally. I no longer work at a sports station. It's kind of we have Lions and Spartans, but we also have a lot of Republican conservative talk. So I'm still heading downtown to the Fisher Building, which is in lockdown. So it's quite weird to walk in there. There's one way in, one way out. You got to sign in at the guard desk, but walking through the hallways of that building is just crazy weird. It's when it's busy, there's nobody in that place. But now it's just like a ghost town.
So who's there? Like, is is Mitch there or Beckman, or do they not?
They're all at home, aren't
they? So Frank, Mitch, Guy, Paul W. They all broadcast from home.
Okay.
The producers all. Let's see. Paul's producer, Frank's producer. They broadcast. They work from home.
Yeah.
And it's just like us, like fill-in producers, board operators, engineers. That we go in there, and it's really weird. And a lot of times the guards, which usually they never say a word to you. Now they want to check your papers, make sure you're on the list.
Have to.
I mean, it's crazy. And like I said before at a previous show, if I'm walking down the hall over there and I see those two girls or that little kid riding around that big wheel, look out, because it's over.
Yeah,
that's right. Because it's over.
We got Brian Boggs and Stephen Grigsby in the chat. Stephen says, "Love you guys. You guys are getting me through. Sports will be back. God bless Jamie." Ask you if you're originally from Troy. No, you're originally from San Francisco. We'll get to that in a minute. But Jamie, as if things aren't terrible enough, Boris Johnson in the ICU, the Prime Minister of Britain, all these different celebrities getting coronavirus. We lose one of the, and I know you're not originally from here, but you're a native son now in Detroit. You are Detroit in so many ways. We lose one of the all-time greats today in 85, my dad's hero, Al Kaline.
Yeah.
When you found out the news, what was your instant reaction?
I mean, my first reaction was obviously, did he pass away from the coronavirus?
Me
Which
too.
it doesn't sound like
Me
he
too.
did, but I think that's a logical assumption for people to have. My second reaction was that my one of my best friends from California, who I grew up with, one of my closest friends, his father spent his summers every year in Detroit and is the biggest Detroit Tiger fan that I knew as a kid. And his all-time idol is Al Kaline. And I arranged when I first started working here for him to meet Al Kaline at Tiger Stadium in that dining room. Remember that old dining room?
Of course.
Bowels of Tiger Stadium, which was just, his biggest thrill. But I think for me, what it's a reminder of is like the whole notion of sports heroes and how it really is. It's true throughout sports. I mean, so like when Kobe died, it was a whole generation, probably a little bit younger than us. That was their guy. You were a Kobe guy. You were Jordan guys. Dave is, I'm guessing, an Elway guy, right? Elway is your guy.
Sure, for sure.
And,
Stupidly.
I mean, we all have our guys, whoever that is. And in Detroit, we've had Yzerman, we've had Barry, and God, thank God they're still with us and doing great. Al Kaline lived a good, long life. So it's not like Kobe in that sense that he was taken too young. Obviously he wasn't playing when I got here. He was still doing games with George Kell when I got here, but I'm well aware of his legacy and just the kindness. I mean, everybody's just had such a nice thing to say about him. And it seemed like he was still very involved in the sport. Like when he would go down to spring training, he wasn't just like a wallflower. I mean, he'd go down there and give his 2 cents on things. He was a special assistant to Dave Dombrowski and Al Avila, but it sounds like he actually was an active assistant. So, I mean, just an absolute legend. I mean, think about that. Think about in 2000 and, granted, it's true in the NBA and NHL and football all the time, but in baseball, never played a day in the minor leagues, got drafted and played his entire career for one team. I mean, even Bryce Harper and Mike Trout spent a few months in the minor leagues. Yeah. And here's Al Kaline, who played every single baseball game he ever played for one team. That's just unbelievable.
Hey, Jamie, how about this? My dad loved me. It's my dad's hero, and I want to get to that in a minute. And a great experience I was able to have with my dad in Kaline a few years ago. How about him not feeling like he performed well enough back when baseball players weren't making $30 million a year and gave back part of his salary? He didn't feel like he deserved it. You think that's going to happen with Bryce Harper or Alex Rodriguez? They're going to give back money right now? Come on.
No, and that's obviously before the money got crazy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if he had any sort of a, Giancarlo Stanton contract or a Garrett Cole contract. He had an Al Kaline contract. I mean, again, you can say all kinds of things. How about him not going for 400 home runs when he could have down the stretch the last day of the season? How about him, not playing a lot down the stretch? How about, he could have built on the 3,000 hits? I mean, it's amazing. And I one of my favorite stories and hearing about the 68 Tigers was that he really wasn't still the same Al Kaline when they won in 68, but that's how important it was to him to get that world championship. I mean, by that point, he had kind of passed his prime and he was kind of in the twilight of his career. but still played an important role on that team, and obviously was a huge leader on that team. So, he's Mr. Tiger. I mean, you can debate the greatest players in Tiger history, whether Miggy's going to be there, Ty Cobb, Al Kaline, Hank Greenberg, but there's only one Mr. Tiger. You know what I mean? There's only one Mr. Hockey. If you think Yzerman was better, whatever, but there's only one Mr. Tiger, and that says a lot about Kaline.
Absolute truth. Dave, you covered the Tigers throughout your career. You've been in the business a lot longer than I am because you're older. What are your memories? Older and not wiser. What are your memories about Kaline?
Again, I didn't see Al play, but I always saw him down at either America Park. I used to see him a lot at Oakland Hills too, when we would do remotes there, and I used to see him walking around. I think that my brother used to say that he always wanted to beat his age. And from what I understand, he was a pretty good golfer, too.
Oh,
yeah.
So, but always really a nice guy. My mom, a big fan of the 68 Tigers. Again, we can go back to the argument. Why do the 68 Tigers get more respect around here than the 84 team? I don't know the answer to that. They just seem to. But he was just a great guy and, a tough loss for the community and for the Tigers.
Two quick stories. I had a good friend, my friend Marv Sonny, Doc Sonny, a dentist that gives back a lot to the community. He called me earlier in tears. A friend of his was dying a few years back, and he sent a letter to ask he reached out to their ticket. He had season tickets. If they could get an autograph for this guy before he died, and Kaline was his hero. And not only did Kaline send back a picture, he wrote the guy a full letter. It was like the most special day of this guy's later life. And he had me in tears as he was in tears. But for me, a few years ago, Jamie, and Dave knows too, that I do the Tigers, humbly asked me to do these Q&As at Comerica. And before I did this whole 68 team together a couple years ago for the 50th anniversary, I did one just with Kaline. And this is my dad's hero. Dave's seen this room, Jamie, kind of like your little, shelf there. He's got a full room of Al Kaline stuff. Autographed pictures, lithographs, every baseball card except for his rookie card, which I've got to buy my dad eventually when I get some money after this whole crisis. And my dad had never met him before. He's not that kind of guy that goes to card shows and stuff. And he met Al Kaline. He was able to watch me do the Q&A. And then after Al had to go through all the first pitch out and everyone's asking for autographs and pictures, the only picture that Al Kaline that day took a picture with was my father. And that I started crying, man. I was like, it's my dad's hero, Jamie. It's my dad's hero.
Yeah.
So he was go ahead.
I think a lot of people. I really do. And again, it's probably a little bit above our age group. Sure. But that's, I hate to say it, but 30 years reminiscing about Barry or
100%.
about Eisner, right?
100%.
And we'll say to our kids or our grandkids, you just don't understand, or you weren't there, or you didn't see it. I mean, and it's not always the greatest player. Again, Kaline is one of the great Tigers of all time.
Sure.
I think when they go down baseball history, Ty Cobb is probably ahead of him, and
I agree.
We'll see where he ends up with his numbers. But it's not always the greatest player. I mean, when I was a kid growing up in San Francisco, my favorite player, and I think it's true of a lot of people in my generation who grew up out there, was Will Clark of the Giants. I mean, for whatever reason, he broke in when I was like a sophomore, freshman in high school.
He was awesome.
And we just glommed onto him, and people adored him. They're going to retire his number this summer if they play baseball out in San Francisco. And if you look at his career, I mean, he had a nice career. He didn't have any he's not a Hall of Famer, but he was our guy. And, that's kind of like Tommy Brookins was here for a lot of Tiger fans in the 84
Sure.
Tigers. I don't mean to lump Kaline in with them because he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's their guy, and that's what sports does for a lot of people.
Jamie, I'll tell you, I used to have tons of Topps Will Clark rookie cards. It was one of my favorite things to show off when I used to sell cards at Crossman's Mall. Why don't we do this in honor of Kaline? And Jamie, we know, Dave and I both know, you're a big baseball guy. You love those even year San Francisco Giants titles. But we always do the Task Force top three. Today we'll do your top three favorite baseball memories. No particular order. It doesn't have to be a game per se, but what are your three favorite baseball memories?
Well, I'm going to say no particular order.
You can do it in order if you want. It's up to you.
Okay. I didn't take my dad. I met my dad in Chicago in 2010 to go to a Cubs-Giants game at Wrigley Field. He had never been to Wrigley before. He's a huge baseball fan. At the time, he was in his 70s. He's now in his 80s. Grew up in Southern California, big Giants fan. That was the year they won their first championship since moving to San Francisco. Buster Posey hit a home run. He was a rookie that year.
Oh, yeah.
And the Giants won at Wrigley. And just experiencing it with my dad was something I'll never forget. So that was definitely one. Given the jobs we do, we are fortunate enough to be at certain events at certain times. And I was fortunate enough to be at both Game 4 against the A's when Maglio hit the home run, and then the last game at Tiger Stadium, which was unbelievable. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. So that year, I bought with a bunch of people at the radio station where I worked at the time, DFN, as Greg referred to, or as Dave referred to, we bought like a season ticket plan that we shared. So that way we knew we'd get tickets to the last game, and then we could get tickets to the opening of Comerica Park. So I got the tickets to the last game, and me and I guess she was my fiance at the time. No, she was my girlfriend at the time.
Oh,
not my wife.
Close enough.
We went to that game, and I had my 2 tickets. Well, we were broadcasting in like a tent outside of Tiger Stadium, as a lot of radio stations were. And I sat down at the desk, and I sat in with Stoney for a few minutes or whatever. And I put my tickets down on that table, and I left them there and forgot. And so we're walking into the stadium, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't have the tickets. So I turn around, I go running back, and they had given them away.
Oh,
because we had like 5 pairs of tickets to give away to that game.
Oh, no.
So fortunately, they had another set of tickets that they hadn't yet given away. They were worse seats, much worse seats.
But you're still in there.
But I was still in there. I was in the center field bleachers, about as far away from home plate as I could have been. But just to be in the building that day was something I'll never forget. Loved it.
Those are beautiful, my friend. Dave, your top 3 favorite baseball memories.
I would say in 1995, I spent the whole season working in the broadcast booth with Frank Beckman and Larry Sorensen. It was his first year doing play-by-play. That was pretty cool. Kind of a weird thing happened. I was in charge of out-of-town scores. They had this little printer in there that was coming from AP. So I'd tear it off, paste and cut and paste the scores. About halfway through the season, the internet got invented, and that was the end of that was the end of my job because they lost over.
Al Gore invented that, by the way. Just so you know. Frank and I followed fantasy football as we got later on in the season with the laptop that he had, and that was the end of that gig. But it was pretty cool for 1 year. When Ernie Harwell got fired, I think I told this story when we had Rob Parker on. I was working at an orthodontist office, and the lady who made the retainers, Ernie went to her church. I went to her church. Ernie was giving a speech. I went up to him, and I was in high school. I asked him if I could do an interview with him. He sat me down in one of the classrooms, answered all my questions. It was pretty cool. And I have to say, my favorite memory was probably the home run derby that they had at Comerica Park during the All-Star game. That was pretty cool. They had like media that was like sitting out in the outfield, if I remember, and it was just a cool experience.
Two things on that. First of all, Gator Scott Anderson got 2 bases.
I know. That's right. I saw on television. That's right.
Yeah, in the home run derby, and then the booth where Frank and Larry and obviously Ernie for all those years with Paul broadcast was the greatest seat anyone's ever had to a baseball game, and you can speak to it, Dave. But it was dangerous. Foul balls. Like I know Ernie usually had a netting in front of him when he broadcast, but if I remember correctly, didn't Frank actually have a mitt the whole time?
He did. I remember Frank had a mitt, and he had this notebook. And in this notebook was detailed notes and the box score from every game that he would paste in there. So when they came back to town and the same team was playing, he could go back quickly. And this was before the internet, and he could find all the stats. It was amazing.
That's crazy.
To do play-by-play that way. It was really cool.
But those balls came back hot.
I would have been freaked out.
I
can't believe Gator got 2 of them. Did he kept them, I'm sure. I mean, they were worth that much money, were they? It's not like a Brandon Inch home run ball or anything.
I don't know. I forget. I want to say one of them was Abreu who ended up
winning. One was Abreu.
That's something.
Yeah.
Dave, you have one?
Actually, no. Abreu didn't win. He got like 20. Didn't he get like 20 some odd homers?
He did. He
Pudge Rodriguez actually won the Derby.
Yeah, he was in the finals. I remember Abreu being in the finals there. I can't remember who won. By the way, Brian Boggs, any relation to Wade, on the chat says Kaline rookies are steep, graded 1, 350, graded 8, $40,000. Dave, you had one more memory, didn't you? Or is that it?
No, that was it. Those were the 3 memories I've had.
All right, for me and this Jamie, I know you're a huge baseball guy. It's very tough to choose these, but I got a personal one like you did. For me, I'll start with the '84 series. I was 7. I had the Coke bottle cans. They had this Coke bottle can collection. Trammell was my first sporting hero. To see them win that title, I didn't understand about all the cars and stuff on fire. I was just so excited they won it. I love Gibby. I love Morris, all that stuff. So that was just an incredible moment in my young sporting life. But then the first Q&A that the Tigers ever asked me to do was the 30th anniversary of '84. And I had every '84 Tiger. And everyone that was living, and I think the only one that did come in was Gibby because he was managing the Diamondbacks, and Morris was broadcasting. But everyone else was there on one stage. It was one of the most emotional moments of my life because these guys are my heroes, and my dad was in that one too. There's a big theme with obviously my dad in sports, as obviously you and Jamie and Dave, or Dave and Jamie both understand. And to do that, and just, it was not about me. It was about just interacting with them and letting the fans who were so excited and so passionate and emotional about seeing them. I don't know if I can top that. And then flying in, I was doing a previous syndicated show out in San Francisco, living in Atlanta, and I flew in for Game 1 of the World Series in '06. Sat with my dad. We lost, but we spent the afternoon watching Michigan, Iowa at Shelley's. Went to the game. My dad's seats are stupid. They're row 4, right by Miguel Cabrera at first base now. It was Sean Casey then. And to be there with my dad, even though we lost, that was a moment I will never forget. But baseball, Jamie, it's going to come back. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe it is, whatever it is. But baseball, I know it's not the most popular sport in America anymore. They had that top 50, most popular athlete or most known athlete list last year. I think Trout was the only one on the list in the top 50. Everyone else is basketball or football players or other athletes. But it's still such a special sport, Jamie. It means so much to so many.
Yeah, and especially here. I mean, I moved to Michigan in 1994 when the Tigers were dead. Dave referred to the '95 season when they lost 100 games. I mean, they were brutal. It was a bad situation.
Yeah.
I remember '95, '96, there was a little bit of hope with like Brian Hunter and Tony Clark and Justin Thompson, but then that quickly went away. And I was like, not really much of a baseball town. And everybody said, no, you have no idea. This is a huge baseball town. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not seeing it, but okay. And then when 2006 happened, oh my gosh, then you realize what a baseball town it was. And I'll never, obviously attire has changed over the years. I mean, back when we were kids, if you had like maybe a hat or maybe a shirt, I mean, your idol Dan Reeves used to wear a coat and tie on the sideline. Now you can't even NFL.
That's
right?
Jerk. No, he's great.
And now it's like everywhere you went in 2006. I remember my daughter was 2, so we'd go to the Detroit Zoo all the time. Everybody was wearing Tiger gear. I mean, just everybody. And I think you really realize what a baseball town it is. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the sizzle. It doesn't have the individual stars. And there's all sorts of reasons why that is, I'm sure. I mean, Mike Trout is the best player, but he maybe isn't the most energetic or enthusiastic guy for interviews and things like that. We still don't feel like we really know him. Part of that's because the Angels, I think, been in the playoffs one time since he's been in the major leagues. Yeah. But, whatever. I love the sport. I know a lot of people love the sport. It definitely got its warts. But watching some of those classic games that Fox is showing on the weekends, boy, I sure miss it.
So he's no Barry Bonds as far as interviews go. All right, we normally do a DTM one-on-one, but today, because you're the special guest, we're doing a Jam Sam one-on-one. Dave Ringer put this together. Here's the San Francisco Treat Rice Aroni theme song for you.
Let's hope that I could read my writing here. I don't know if Jamie knows this, but the youngest Rieger brother lives out in San Rafael in Marin.
I do.
Used to live in the Haight-Ashbury. Now it just moved. So got a couple questions. I've been to San Francisco about 5 times to visit them, mostly to see Broncos Raiders in the Black Hole. And now, of course, the Raiders have gone to Vegas. But I'm going to give you 2 places. You can tell me which one, either maybe not that you like better, but maybe that that you would choose over the other. So the first one is Golden Gate Bridge or Alcatraz.
Well, Golden Gate Bridge is spectacular. I mean, it really is. It's kind of like the Grand Canyon, if you've ever been there, where you see pictures of it, but to actually see it in person is truly spectacular. But if you're looking to spend a couple hours, Alcatraz is awesome.
I've never been.
I took my kids out there.
I gotta
go. My sister got married in California about 3 or 4 summers ago, and my wife had to come back a day later. She had another engagement, so I took my kids out a day early, and we spent the day on the ferry, went out to Alcatraz, took the tour. It's really cool. I mean, it's like, even if you're not a huge history person, it's fascinating walking through the cells and everything. So I always tell people, if you're going to San Francisco, make sure you carve out a couple hours for Alcatraz because I think it's a must do when you're out.
I lived there. I mean, Jamie, I don't know if you remember, I went to boarding school out near San Francisco. I never went to Alcatraz. I gotta go. All right, Dave, what do you got?
Yeah.
Number 2, either the trolleys or the BART.
BART, by the way, Bay Area Rapid Transit. I knew that one.
You nailed it. I mean, the cable cars, again, you got to jump on the cable car. I don't see them. I see them about as being as useful as the Q line. Like, I feel like everybody who takes the cable car is using it for the tourism aspect, not for the actual mass transit access.
Right.
BART is, it's a pretty convenient train, although it's super expensive. I mean,
is it really?
You ride you ride the L in Chicago or the subway in New York, and it's like a flat fare, whatever, right? It's like $2 or $3 to get on, forever. Right. BART, they measure it by station. So let's say they had one in Michigan. You're going from Birmingham to Detroit. That's like $10. Whereas if you're going from Hamtramck to Detroit, that's like $2.50 or whatever. So it's very, very expensive.
Wow, I had no idea.
This next one kind of doesn't fit anymore because the team left. But 49ers or Raiders?
Ooh, the Raiders.
All right, so I'm embarrassed and proud to both admit I'm kind of a fair weather fan. I grew up a Raider fan and loved the Raiders. I mean, my favorite, going back to like random favorite players, my favorite player was a wide receiver on that not that first, I guess it was the second Raiders championship team named Bob Chandler, who played opposite Cliff Branch with Plunkett and Kenny King and all those teams. So they beat the Eagles in Super Bowl 14. Super Bowl 15. They beat the Eagles in New Orleans. Stoney was at that game, by the way.
Really?
And then they moved. They moved to L.A. And then the next year, the Niners got great. So it was almost like, bye, Raiders. See you later. Now root for the Niners.
Well, isn't it true, Jamie? You can answer this question because you live there. Aren't the Niners fans considered the hoity-toity ones, the Raiders fans working class? Isn't that kind of the divide?
That's kind of the divide, although, man, the Niner fans are pretty working class as well. I mean, Niner fans are huge. The Raider fans, it's almost like, I mean, you've probably been to more Raider games than I have, Dave, because I haven't been in years. I now see the Broncos. It's almost like, okay, whatever, we get it.
Right.
You're all violent and gross. I mean, it's like they're playing a role, which I almost find annoying. You know.
You know, the last game I went to real quick.
You almost got beat up, Dave, right?
It was the only game they lost. It was a Sunday night game that Broncos lost, and you thought they would have won the Super Bowl, right? So I just kept on saying, "Congratulations on your win. Your team's going to Vegas." Well, this girl on the train coming back to San Francisco, you got to go under the bay to come back.
Yeah.
And this girl was going crazy on me, and just wanted her boyfriend to beat me up and just yelling at me, and I just going nuts. And I'm like, You live in San Francisco. You're not even a real Raiders fan. You're getting off in San Francisco. What are you talking about? So a lot of the San Francisco fans, they go across and they're like these fake Raider fans, but whatever.
Yeah.
Faders. All right, what else you got, Dave?
A few more for or Fisherman's Wharf.
I think he's going to go with the Wharf.
What's that?
I think you're going to go with the Wharf.
I'm going to go with the Wharf. Yeah, Fisherman's Wharf. Pier 39, overrated. It's like the mall of San Francisco. My wife will tell you every time she goes there, she feels like we end up on Pier 39, so she's like sick of it. I mean, that's just over the top. But Fisherman's Wharf, I mean, you walk along the wharf, you see Alcatraz, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge, the smell of the seafood and everything else. Embarcadero is very, very nice, but it's basically just office buildings. There's one to Justin Herman Plaza, where, as Dan will remember, U2 had their famous outdoor performance as part of the Joshua Tree Tour in 1987. Rock and roll stopped traffic.
It was sick. What is the Embarcadero again? Is that like a shopping area?
It's like the pier.
Oh, okay.
You know, where you get the ferry and everything. Yeah. And there's like our arts and crafts and stuff. Yeah. And a lot of office buildings
and hotels.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Two more for you, Jamie. Got to go. Candlestick or AT&T Park?
Ooh, it's a good one.
Or even that is, I don't know if AT&T Park still the name.
It changes every 2 years.
It's Oracle now. It's actually, I believe we're on our fourth incarnation. Went from Pac-Bell to SBC, AT&T, and now it's Oracle. I loved Candlestick Park. I mean, I grew up there. That was my place. It was miserable. It was cold. It was windy. The teams were bad, but man, I loved it. I mean, there was this, the feeling you get, like, the feeling you got when you went whooshing into those revolving doors of the Silverdome, where the thing would push you in or push you out.
It's a perfect example.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got. There was an escalator that you would take up to the main concourse at Candlestick Park, and I just loved it. I mean, it's to me, it's like the Silverdome or Ford Field. Ford Field is a beautiful stadium. Enjoy it. It's well done, whatever, but it's not the Silverdome, right? Now, the Giants have a lot of great memories at this ballpark, so I have nothing bad to say about it, but I love
Dave, before you go to your last question, Jamie, that's a perfectly poignant point you made. Tiger Stadium, I loved it. Michigan Stadium, I still love it. The Palace, phenomenal. Yeah. There is no stadium I loved more or will love more ever than the Pontiac Silverdome. So there's just, it's nasty building, beer, people are getting in fights. It was just such walking through those doors, like you mentioned, the smell of the beer, which even though I was 10, my dad getting me chicken fingers, going to the payphones to call their bookies. It just, Barry Sanders, it was everything. So even though Candlestick wasn't as nice as some of the newer parks, the older ones are sometimes the best. All right, Dave, what's your last one?
Oh, real quick, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So I've been, I bounced around a little bit in my radio career, and for about 6 months, I worked with Dominski and Doyle on WCX, right? Really good guys, but they weren't from here. I mean, they lived here for a few years, but they weren't from here. And it was 2009. Ford Field was about 7-8 years old, and somehow the Silverdome came up, and I said to them on the air, I said, Ford Field's nice, but I would trade places with the Silverdome 10 times out of 10. And they're like, no way, you guys know what you're talking about. I said, I guarantee you open up the phone lines right now and ask the callers what they'd prefer, and I guarantee you a vast majority would say the Silverdome. 100% of the callers said the Silverdome.
Jamie, if you guys took 10,000 calls that day, 9,998 would have said the Silverdome.
I don't know much, but I definitely know the dome was the place.
Jamie, don't short yourself. You know a lot of things more. That's why your head's so big. Dave, your final Jam Sam one-on-one question.
Saving the best for last, and Jamie, I think, will appreciate this because I don't know if there is a good answer for this one. And this would be the Tenderloin or the Castro.
Stay out of both, man. Stay out of both.
Explain what they are, Jamie. Explain what they are.
Let's go. Dave can definitely speak to this. It's freezing, okay? That's why when you travel around the United States and you see a lot of people wearing sweatshirts that just say San Francisco, it's because when they go out to visit, they pack shorts and a T-shirt because they're like, hey, it's California. It is a very cold city, particularly in the summer.
It is.
Number one. Number two, the homeless problem in San Francisco is ugly. I mean, you walk around the streets of San Francisco, and there's some beautiful streets, obviously some unbelievable homes, but there's a huge homeless problem out there. So I recommend everybody go. I think it's a great city to visit, the Bay Area. Obviously, I grew up there. My mom and dad still live out there, but there are some warts in that city, to be sure.
That is for sure. Dave, great question. Yeah. Jamie, brilliant job. All right, a couple quick things before we go. I still can't believe that tonight would have been the national championship game. Jamie, we talked about this earlier. It feels like it was a year ago they canceled the tournament. My heart breaks for Obi Toppin and Cassius Winston and all these guys to get a chance to finish out their senior years or their year before they go to the draft. Let's have some fun here. The other night, we with the brothers Rieger, we went through Joe Lenardi's final bracket. How about tonight we say who we thought would have been a national champion? Jamie, you're the featured guest, the hero for many. We'll start with you.
Let me ask, did Dave have them going out in like the first round? I mean, Jeff. Did Jeff have them going out in the first round, Michigan State?
No, Jeff wasn't part of that.
It was Eric.
It was Eric. It was our brother from San Francisco who was in there.
Jeff was having some
talking about ultra running or something. That my brother's Eric's a big marathon guy. So
I had Michigan State going to the Final Four, Jamie. Full disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got to start with Michigan State and make the case for them not winning because they obviously were gelling at the right time. Everything looked like it was on the right page. People always said that they needed that third guy, whether it was Henry, whether it was Mo Watts, Rocket Watts. Mo Watts, former Michigan State coach, Rocket Watts. So it shows you how long it's been. I can't
either. Don't worry.
But then again, I just think Cassius was starting to kind of rediscover his game. I mean, let's face it, his senior Big Ten season was not great. It was good. But there were some lulls in there where he was struggling, and obviously there's a lot of reasons why that was. So I think with his senior guard, with Rocket Watts playing the way he was, I think they would have been a really, really tough out. I liked Kansas an awful lot too. I mean, when they went into Baylor in early February in that noon game on a Saturday, Baylor was going crazy. and they stared him down. Got a great play from Dotson. I think Kansas would have been a real contender as two. So those would be the two teams I was.
By the way, not to get depressing, but there is some breaking news. The Suburban Collection Showplace, I actually known this for a little while because my friends on the board of the hospital that's part of this. It will be Michigan's second coronavirus field hospital, so they're going to have a lot more room for people. Thank God. Let's get everyone safe there. Dave, who would be? It's still crazy to think that the golf show was there recently, and now we've got a field hospital. But that's what matters right now is saving lives. Dave, Jamie, you know this. Dave's a big Duke slap. Duke is such an inconsistent team. If you pick Duke to win it all, Dave, we're going to know that you're both a Broncos DB and a Duke slap.
Obviously, I pick Duke every year to win, but unfortunately this year they were very inconsistent. So I'm going to go with Jamie. It was either going to be Kansas or maybe Kentucky. Kentucky seemed to be coming on strong at the end of the season. So maybe Calipari would have gotten them to the finals. But so it was either going to be probably Kansas or Kentucky.
Well, I like all your guys' picks. I think Kansas is an excellent team. I think people are forgetting San Diego State had a very weak schedule, but they were a lot better than people thought they were. But for me, Jamie and Dave, it was all about hopefully future Piston, Obi, Spinning, Toppin, and Dayton. The Flyers fly into the championship. Maybe against State, maybe against Kansas, whomever. I would have gone with Obi Toppin in my bracket. And Jamie, you know, I won Stoney's contest a couple years ago. Maybe the Squatch would have done it again.
I'm sure that you never let Jamie forget about it either.
5 pools every year in Stoney's contest, so you increase your odds. I mean, seriously, when you think about a fan base you feel sorry for, you kind of have to start with the Dayton Flyer basketball fan base, right? I mean, how often is I went to Northwestern. We'll never win the NCAA tournament. Never. Okay, we've never gotten out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. There's certain schools out there where you just know it's never going to happen. Now Dayton has a great basketball history, a great tradition. They've actually been to the Final Four before, but it's still Dayton, right? I mean,
it's still Dayton.
Well, I'm just saying they haven't become Gonzaga. If they become Gonzaga, then maybe we'll be talking about it more. But for all of Gonzaga's great play, they only made the Final Four once during this whole 20-year run, right? A couple years ago.
Right.
I mean, I feel if you're a Dayton fan, it's like you've lived your whole life for this. It's be like those George Mason fans back in whatever year it was.
Jim Larinaga, the 13th.
Jimmy Larinaga, Gant Miller, proud GMU alum. It's like they had their Final Four run. It's like Dayton to have that robbed away, man. That is because I don't think an Obi Toppin's going to be walking through that door anytime soon.
No, it's like I said, I know they didn't give those kids the waiver. I understand. I got enough fights on Twitter, and Jamie, I'll ask this before we go. I understand that it would have clogged things up. I understand they played most of their seasons, but I feel like, and a lot of these basketball players like Obi Toppin would have gone back anyway. I feel like people, the players that wanted to go back, that wanted to get a waiver to play one more year, should have been allowed to because I know that most of them played much of their years. If we could do a $2.2 trillion stimulus package, we could figure out an extra year of eligibility for college basketball or lacrosse or whatever there are hockey players, the winter players. Am I being crazy about that, Jamie?
No, I mean, look, when they first introduced it a few weeks ago when they canceled it, me and Stoney talked about it on the radio, and my whole thing, kind of like you, Dan, was why not? I mean, what's the downside? And obviously,
unprecedented times.
You are standing in the way of progress of other players. And, so like, let's say I know Michigan State fans aren't really high on Foster Loyer, but Foster Loyer obviously thinks he's going to try to be a point guard for this team next year. And because Cassius Winston may have had as many as 6, 7, 9 games left, but he could have had as few as 2 games left. I mean, how do you handle the teams who were already done? Northwestern was eliminated in the Big Ten tournament the night before the Big Ten tournament was canceled. How do you handle those guys? Do they get another year of eligibility?
Right.
So I do think it would have been more of a headache. It sucks, but I get it. Plus, and maybe the next guy you should get on the task force is Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports. We were talking to Dan about this last week. College sports might be in a world of hurt if they don't get football. If they don't have football in the fall, we could be looking at the end of college sports as we know it, where bringing back seniors for an extra year might be the least of their problems. Funding as many sports as they have, even at the Michigans and Michigan States, might be completely out the window.
Yeah, Jamie, I'll tell you this, and I hope I'm wrong, but the way me and Dave have talked about this previously on the task force, I know that there's just no way to me right now, and this might go for all sports, that until there's a vaccine or a proven treatment for COVID-19, that you can even think about having fans in the stands. Could they start doing games without fans? NFL's talking about the preseason games. College, could they do it? Sure. But for me, there's no way, especially college kids. A lot of them were the ones, I'm not saying, most of them, but a lot of them were partying and, didn't really think this was serious. They're younger. They're not going to get as sick as others. I can't see any fans in stands anytime soon until there's a vaccine or a proven treatment.
Yeah, that seems to be the conventional wisdom, Dan. I agree with you. I mean, I think we're hearing these ideas kind of leak out from various people higher up in the sports. I mean, Major League Baseball isolating the players down in Arizona or Florida, the whole horse thing that came out in the NBA yesterday.
Right.
They might play horse. To me, that's just like throwing up a test flag to see if people like it or not. Again, to do these things, you still have to put people out there. I mean, Dave talking about going to work every single day to keep that radio station running. It still sucks that he has to do that. But the radio stations have been deemed essential. I feel very fortunate that I don't have to leave my house. So let's say they do, there's talk of maybe bringing the PGA Tour back midsummer and playing onesomes or twosomes.
Right.
Well, guess what? You still have to get people out there to run the course and manage the course. I assume they're going to televise it, because why else would they do it if they're not going to televise it so we can watch and be entertained? I mean, I would think a golf crew of producers, directors, camera operators, cable operators, everything else, that's got a number in the high tens, if not hundreds, right, of people. And those people are leaving their homes, going to hotels, going to gas stations, going to restaurants, going to, that's what people keep losing sight of. Is it's not you putting yourself at risk, it's putting others at risk. Like, I don't know if I have it. I don't think I do. I don't know if Dave has it. I don't know if you have it, Dan. I don't think you do. But you might, because we just don't know right now.
And the Surgeon General, Jamie's saying, act like you do. Act like everyone has it right now.
Exactly. So don't go get gas unless you absolutely have to get gas. And if you do, wear gloves or things like that. Right. I think people are still too concerned if I'm not going to get it. It's like, that's not the point. The point is, are you carrying it? And as long as there's no vaccine or no treatment, like you said, people have to assume they're carriers. I don't see how they can have sporting events until that happens.
Let's hope that, listen, vaccines could take up to a year. It's the fastest thing to rush into trial. Maybe the aliens come down and help us. I believe there's aliens out there. Something happens. Hope I'm wrong. But we got to worry about life and saving lives before we worry about sports. I know that hurts because we're all big sports guys.
If the aliens came down and they were all wearing your space coat, Dan, would you be like a kindred spirit?
I would. I think they would know. I think they know that I've always been a believer. The space coat kind of reaches out to them. GM Sam, we could talk to you for hours. You've got a family. You've got shows to do. So I can't thank you enough. Before we go, though, we always do this. We'll let Dave start. Parting shots. He always loves to do his favorite Friday Night Lights quote. But Dave, what do you got tonight?
Well, I thought we were also going to do I have two special items to show that in honor of Jamie.
I'm being respectful of Jamie.
The first one, real quick. Obviously, in honor of Jamie, where Jamie's from, Super Bowl 50 calendar right here. In honor of because they won it in Santa Clara. I know you're not really in Santa Clara, but at least like the week before was all around San Francisco. So thanks for that.
Is Papa John in that picture? I'm trying to see him there. Is he? Because
he better not.
That was the first guy
right.
after the.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He might.
I hated that.
And then of course, this from Alcatraz, because I did go to Alcatraz. This Al Capone shot glass.
Nice.
From Alcatraz when I went.
That's pretty sick. So, Jam Sam, what do you got for your interesting house item?
Sure. Can I get up real quick? I'll be 1 second.
Dave, I love that you have how much did the Al Capone shot glass cost a tax evasion? Did it cost? Was that what it was? Tax evasion charge?
Yeah, it was like bought during Prohibition, right?
All right. Hold on, Jam Sam's got his event.
The station we used to work at together. So there you go.
I do. I thought that was Stoney up there.
No,
I could see the cap. Is that you?
Yeah,
I saw the Capital Mortgage funding.
Yeah, that's definitely Jam Sam.
It looks like Stoney.
How about those pants? I mean,
those
I
are
hope
great.
I never wore those pants.
Are you a big fan of those, like kind of old school 80-year-old, person doing the lawn, their little blue jean pants? You like those, right?
Those are the classic mom jeans. And then, so I'm also been doing the show from down in my basement as well. I'll turn it around. So over there is my little broadcast facility. And every morning next to me for inspiration, Dan, you'll appreciate this. A model of Ryan Field.
Ryan Field.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And Dan, you'll appreciate this. This is where Anthony Thomas was running this way when he fumbled the ball, leading to Northwestern scoring right here in the classic 2054-51 game.
Yep. Jeez, that was a day. That was a day, Ryan Field. That's a beautiful. Where did you get that model from? I think I might want to buy a similar one.
These were like big deals like 20 years ago. They made these for all the stadiums, I think.
It looks like it's from the Danbury Mint.
Yeah, my dad's got a few of those. Those were really cool.
It is from the Danbury, actually.
Yep.
By the way, Doc Sonny is on the task force. He says hi. Rob Traeger says hi, as well as Josh Barney. I wonder if he's a big fan of the show, Barney. For me, I know you two can't see this, but I'll put it up to the camera. It is a picture of my dad and me and Al Kaline from that day where my dad was able to get that meeting with Kaline for the first time in his life, his sporting hero. Sad day, Jamie. Sad day, Jamie and Dave, for Detroit sports. We've lost two of the icons in 4 years.
And so we can get Jamie out of here because I know he's got to get to sleep. I'll just end with my parting shot. Obviously, is the same every week or every time we do the show, which is my favorite coach, Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights.
The best.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Love it, Dave. Brilliant. Go ahead.
And can I just say real quick before Dan closes out, in these difficult times when everyone's streaming a lot of television, if you haven't seen Friday Night Lights, the television show, not the movie, the television show.
So good.
I'm jealous of you because you have 5 seasons ahead of you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's a football show, but it's not a football show. Your wife will love it. Your girlfriend will love it if she's not a sports fan. I can't recommend. It's such a great show.
It really is.
Like, I think about my favorite shows, and I know it doesn't stand up in terms of like The Wire or Sopranos in terms of Emmys or whatever. But if I think of a show I'd watch all over again from the start, it probably would be Friday Night Lights. It's that good of a show.
Can you please do a blog about it, like you do for 24?
Yes, yeah, I will.
Oh my God, it was my favorite thing to read when 24 was going on, and Jamie would do this blog. I loved it. I looked forward to Jamie's 24 blog.
I remember that. That was excellent.
I was actually kind of bummed because they canceled Motor City Comic Con, which was supposed to be out at the aforementioned. And Kiefer Sutherland was going to be there.
Right, and his mom just passed away yesterday, right?
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
His mom just passed away yesterday. Not from COVID, though. But
Okay. But I even said to my wife, I'm like, I feel like I should moderate the Kiefer Sutherland session. I feel like I'd be the best person to do it. I wouldn't talk about Flatliners or Few Good Men or anything like that, but I would talk all about 24 for the whole time.
Are you a big Designated Survivor fan?
I tried to watch it, and
I liked that show. I really liked it. It went to Netflix for the last season. I watched it from the beginning. I thought it was a pretty good show. I really liked it.
Yeah, but it was Jack Bauer toned down, unfortunately.
Yes,
that was the problem.
He was
rumors.
Secretary of Commerce. He did an action hero.
But there's rumors that they're bringing back 24 again. This time with Jack Bauer and Kiefer, though. So,
maybe he'll fight the coronavirus. Jamie, any parting shots, my friend?
Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. I mean, I think that's. I'll just echo Dave. That's the greatest line of all time.
Well, Jamie, I just want to say this before we go. You've always been an inspiration to me in many ways, not just on radio, but in life. You're the first person to welcome me to 97.1 when I got hired. You've always been someone that I've looked up to. And I know I'm getting sappy here, but I want to thank you for always being supportive, especially during times like these, for coming on. You've got a family, you got shows you're doing, but I want us to all be back together eventually, hugging, playing golf, space coats, whatever. When you had fun with it the other day, you're like, there's no sports today. But Leach just went 13-5-2 against the spread. You're always just a great guy. I love you. And thank you for coming. Keep the great work you're doing. Everyone out there, stay safe. Believe in the dream. Be good to each other. And hopefully we come out of this a little kinder, a little nicer, and obviously more gracious as human beings. Jamie, Dave, love you both.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Was a lot of fun.
Till next time, Task Force out. Take care.